Welcome to another chilling episode of Unsolved Mysteries. In 2001, a small Welsh village became the epicenter of a crime so bizarre, so ritualistic, that it seemed ripped from the pages of a horror novel. What began as a welfare check on an elderly resident would unveil a nightmare that shook the community to its core and left investigators questioning everything they thought they knew about human nature. Quote, forget to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Now let's dive into today's haunting case. Our story takes us to Anglesey, South Wales, on November 25th, 2001. A social worker was making her routine visit to deliver lunch to Mabel Leishon, a 90-year-old widow under her care. But as she approached the modest cottage, something felt terribly wrong. The living room window facing the garden was shattered. Glass fragments scattered across the ground, like deadly confetti. Someone had clearly forced their way inside. When police officers arrived at the scene, nothing could have prepared them for what lay beyond that broken window. Inside the living room, they found Mabel seated in her armchair, covered by a blanket. But as they lifted the fabric, a macabre tableau was revealed that would haunt seasoned investigators for years to come. Mabel's hands were positioned across her chest, in the shape of a cross. Her ribcage had been split wide open, and her heart was missing. This wasn't just murder. It was something far more sinister. The crime scene told a story that defied conventional understanding. Arranged on the carpet before the fireplace were two iron pokers, deliberately placed to form a cross. Nearby sat a candlestick, its significance unclear, but undeniably part of whatever ritual had taken place in this quiet home. The forensic team worked methodically, photographing every detail of what appeared to be some form of human sacrifice. But the most disturbing discovery was yet to come. In the kitchen, investigators found a saucepan containing a significant amount of blood and something wrapped in newspaper. Forensic analysis would later confirm their worst suspicions. It was Mabel's heart, removed with surgical precision after her death. The positioning of the religious symbols, the extraction of the heart, the careful arrangement of the body, everything suggested this wasn't a random act of violence, but a calculated ritual performed by someone with deeply disturbed beliefs. Mabel Leishon had lived a quiet, unremarkable life. At 90 years old, she was a beloved figure in the small community, known for her gentle nature and kindness to neighbors. Widowed and living alone, she relied on social services for assistance with daily tasks, meal delivery, housekeeping, and garden maintenance. The autopsy revealed the brutal reality of her final moments. Mabel had been stabbed 22 times, primarily in the back, suggesting the killer had attacked from behind. The murder weapon appeared to be a kitchen knife, sharp but not particularly long. The first wound had reached her heart, causing immediate death. But the true horror began after Mabel had died. The killer had mutilated her legs and neck, seemingly attempting to drain her blood. The forensic pathologist believed the perpetrator was trying to collect as much blood as possible, a detail that would prove crucial to understanding the killer's twisted motivation. The forensic examination of the saucepan revealed something that chilled investigators to the bone. Not only had the killer removed Mabel's heart, but there were clear signs that someone had consumed the blood within. Lip prints on the rim and a bloodline indicating the liquid level had dropped told a horrifying story. DNA analysis of blood samples throughout the house revealed that most belonged to Mabel as expected. However, one crucial sample, taken from the broken window frame where the killer had likely cut himself while entering, belonged to a male perpetrator. Unfortunately, when run through the National Criminal Database, no match was found. This Killer had no prior convictions, realizing they were hunting someone who believed himself to be a vampire. Investigators feared this wouldn't be an isolated incident. They launched the largest DNA screening operation in Welsh history, requesting samples from all males aged 18 to 65 in the village. Approximately 3,100 men from a population of 7,000. Meanwhile, forensic specialists worked on other evidence. Partial boot prints found on the broken glass and garden paving stones were matched against a police database of footwear patterns. The breakthrough came when they identified the boots as Levi's canvas shoes, a relatively uncommon style sold by only one retailer in the area. The shop owner confirmed he had sold 53 pairs of these boots. 47 purchased with credit cards, easily traced, and 6 paid for in cash. This narrowed the field considerably, but still didn't provide the breakthrough investigators desperately needed. With traditional investigative methods reaching dead ends, detectives took their case to the media. The lead investigator appeared on the BBC's Crime Watch program, revealing the disturbing details of the ritual murder and the belief that they were hunting a self-proclaimed vampire. The response was immediate. Among the numerous calls received, one stood out. A young woman reported a disturbing encounter with a local teenager who had asked her about vampires and whether she believed in them. Even more unsettling, he had attempted to bite her neck. The caller identified the young man as Matthew Hardman, a 17-year-old art student living just 200 meters from Mabel's cottage. Chapter 7. The suspect. Matthew Hardman seemed like an unlikely killer, described by neighbors as quiet and intelligent. He lived with his mother in a respectable home and was studying at art college. His childhood had been unremarkable until his father's death when Matthew was 13, an event that seemed to trigger significant behavioral changes. When investigators had initially canvassed the neighborhood, they had spoken with Matthew. He had denied knowing Mabel or ever visiting her home. However, there was a crucial detail that made him particularly interesting as a suspect. At 17, he had been too young for the DNA screening, which only included males aged 18 to 65. When detectives returned to interview Matthew more thoroughly, inconsistencies in his story began to emerge. Despite initially claiming he didn't know Mabel, his mother contradicted him, reminding him that he had delivered newspapers to her house as recently as September, just 2 months before the murder. Matthew's shifting story raised red flags, but he remained cooperative, readily agreeing to provide a DNA sample and allowing officers to examine his footwear. His calm demeanor was almost unsettling, given the circumstances. In his bedroom, investigators found exactly what they were looking for: blue Levi's canvas shoes, matching the brand found at the crime scene. The shoes were immediately sent for forensic comparison. The forensic analysis provided the breakthrough investigators needed. The partial boot print found on the broken glass at Mabel's home was a perfect match for Matthew's shoes. While the brand and model could be owned by others, each shoe develops unique wear patterns based on the owner's gait, usage, and walking style. This particular shoe was definitively the one that had left prints at the murder scene. The DNA comparison was equally damning. Matthew's genetic profile matched the blood sample found on the window frame exactly. The evidence was overwhelming, and Matthew was arrested. Despite the mounting evidence, Matthew maintained his innocence throughout his interrogation. He showed no signs of remorse, anxiety, or guilt, a demeanor that disturbed experienced detectives. His psychological evaluation revealed a young man who understood right from wrong, but had become obsessed with vampire mythology and the belief that consuming human blood would grant him immortality. A search warrant for his home revealed additional, damning evidence: a kitchen knife matching the murder weapon hidden in his jacket pocket. When forensic specialists examined the blade, they found Mabel's DNA in the joint between the blade and handle, microscopic traces that had survived the killer's attempts to clean the weapon. Computer analysis revealed Matthew's internet searches for information on avoiding forensic detection and multiple visits to vampire-related websites. On July 15, 2002, Matthew Hardman's trial began. The prosecution painted a picture of a disturbed teenager who had murdered an innocent elderly woman in pursuit of his delusional belief in vampirism. The defense argued that DNA evidence could have been transferred through newspapers Matthew had delivered, but the jury found this explanation unconvincing. Given the totality of evidence, the forensic proof was overwhelming. Matthew's DNA on the window frame, his unique boot prints at the crime scene, the murder weapon found in his possession, his internet searches, and vampire-related interests, his changing story and proximity to the victim. The jury unanimously found Matthew guilty of murder, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment. Throughout the proceedings, he showed no emotion and never confessed to his crime. The case of Mabel Lation's murder remains one of the most disturbing crimes in Welsh history. A kind elderly woman who had lived quietly for 90 years became the victim of a teenager's twisted fantasy about achieving immortality through vampirism. Matthew Hardman, now in his late 30s, remains incarcerated. Multiple appeals have been denied over the years. The case raises troubling questions about how a seemingly normal young person can develop such dark obsessions and act upon them with such calculated brutality. For the small community of Anglesey, the case served as a stark reminder that evil can lurk behind the most ordinary facades.